good afternoon. And as Dr. Seth just said, I'll be talking to you about the summer research internship that I did in New Mexico Tech's Biochemical and Biomedical Research Lab. Today, I will be talking about the effect of Anemopsis californica on cancer cells. This plant is also known as yerba mansa, swamp root, apache beets, and lizard tail. You might be wondering why we chose Anemopsis californica. Well, this project was began 8 years ago and it was suggested by Mr. Leo Guerra. He's a medicine man of the Catawba tribe. He was in charge of remodeling the lab in which we spent 5 weeks doing research and also being introduced to a lot of techniques. The case that we chose this is because Leo suggested it because he's using this plant in his tribe to treat melanoma. And he uses this one in the form of an oil or a tea. I believe that we are all aware of the fact that medicinal plants are a rich source of anti-cancer drugs, as there is vinblastine, which is used to cure leukemia, and it was extracted from the Madagascar periwinkle. Another example of this is also paclitaxel, also known as Taxol, which is extracted from the Taxus brevifolia. So what we wanted to do with this, we had to go back a little bit back to previous studies, and it was where everything began. Everything began by having all the parts of the plant, which included the leaves, the roots, the bracts, and the stems, and they were extracted in 3 different solvents, which included water, ethanol, and ethyl acetate. This was based on their polarity. After we finished this extraction, we had 12 samples. Well, what we wanted to do with these extracts were tested for their effect on growth and migration of 3 different cancer cell lines. After we did this, we noticed that many of them did inhibit the growth and also the migration in the cells. But there was one that stood out the most, and this one was the water root extract, because it inhibited the migratory activity of all the 3 cell lines. Okay, where did we get this plant? We got this plant from an area of New Mexico, mostly in silty, damp soil. What we did after we had the plant in our lab, we cut it, we extracted this one in the different solvents, as you can see here, and then this one was filtered and lyophilized. What is lyophilized? The liquid is converted into a powder. We had, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the best one that we got was a water root extract 1. We call it 1 so we can differentiate between among them. After we had the water root extract 1, we also diluted it in water and lyophilized this one again, and we obtained the water root extract 2. After we had the water root extract 2, we added cyclohexane to this one, and we ended up with 2 more fractions, being the cyclohexane fraction, which we think that it will contain the more apolar compounds, and the water-soluble fraction, which we think that it will contain the more polar compounds. After we had all our new samples, we lyophilized them again, and now we were ready to start this experiment in all the cell lines. The cell lines that we tested were the MCF7ACs, which are estrogen dependent. We also tested it in the model that Natalia talked about previously, which is the HS cell lines, and also in the HCTA colon cancer cells, which due to the limited amount of time, I won't be talking about them. We began our series of assays with an MTT assay. Now, why an MTT assay? We did an MTT assay because it measures the toxicity of the extracts in your cells. And as you can see, we use a range of concentrations from 0 to 200 micrograms per ml. And in the y-axis, we had the optical density, meaning, as you can see, having 100% for our control cells. If you can see by this graph, we were able to see that the OD80, we wanted to have the OD80. Why? Because at this point, with the OD80, it's the time that 80% of our cells are still alive. So we wanted to see what was that concentration in which we had 80% of our cells alive. And as you can see for the HS578T, which is the parental, after 24 hours, the range was the concentration was 20 micrograms per mil for all the extracts and fractions. We moved on to the invasive cell line after a 24-hour period as well. And after looking at this graph and comparing these results, we were able to see that it was around the same concentration, being 20 micrograms per mil. When we get to the MCF7A6 after 24 hours, you can see that the one that had the 20 micrograms per mil was only the cyclohexane fraction. But it is good to say at this point that although the other extras and fractions were a little bit more toxic, it didn't really have the OD50, meaning that still at this point, more than 50% of our cells are still alive, which is what we wanted to have. We also performed this experiment in a time frame of 72 hours. And since I didn't want to show you more graphs, I just decided to tabulate these results. And as you can see, for none of these cell lines or the extracts and fractions that we use, you can see big difference. The only difference that you can notice is that for this, after 72 hours, we had to use a little bit less, and the concentration for this one was mainly 10 micrograms per mil. We also wanted to show you that no IC50s were found in this experiment, meaning that we had more than 50% of our cells alive. And because, as you can see, we needed more than 200 micrograms per mil in order for us to kill more than 50% of our cells, with the exception of the original water root extract of the parental cell line. After this, we knew that our extracts were not toxic in the cell, so therefore we were ready to begin our biological assays, beginning with sulforarhodamine B assay. This assay, what it does is that it stains the protein to see if something is happening with the growth of the cells. And as you can see, after a period of 24 and 72 hours, there was not really a growth inhibition or any difference in the amount of cells that you see. Same thing happened for the invasive cell line. You don't see a big difference among themselves when it comes to the number of cells. And same thing happened for the MCF7A6. Now, we wanted to confirm our SRB results because we cannot make a conclusion just based on that. So, to do so, we performed a cell count after 24 hours, but we also did the same thing after 72 hours. And as you can see in this graph, we used the example of the HS cell line, and once again, we were not able to see a big difference in the inhibition of growth or in the amount of growth, in the amount of cells at this point. This brings me to this next slide, which is a little diagram that I wanted to show you so you can maybe understand a little bit better. Although I just said that it didn't inhibit the growth by doing the SRB and the cell count assays, the bad thing about this is that we don't have an exact amount of how many cells we have at that point. Therefore, we don't know if maybe we have less cells because cell growth inhibition happened, or maybe we have less cells after we added the extracts because apoptosis occurred. Now, what is this? As you know, in the normal cell, you go through cell proliferation, meaning that the cells divide at a constant rate. You have 1, then 2, then 4, and so forth. When cell growth inhibition happens, it goes through the same pattern, but the only difference is that it takes a longer amount of time for this to happen. In the other hand, you have apoptosis, meaning that you begin with the same number of cells, but something is happening that is killing one of those cells, having your net amount of cells to be way less than in cell proliferation. Although we knew that our extract did not induce apoptosis because it didn't have any effect on the growth, we wanted to see what would really happen. So we decided to perform an apoptosis test. I'm showing you here the results for the MCF7A6 at 2 different time frames, one being 0 and the other one being after 24 hours. How can I compare these results? I needed a positive control. and I used camptothecin, which is a compound that I know, that we all know due to research, that it does induces apoptosis. Therefore, as you can see here, after 0, all of our samples were in the same plane, in the lower right quadrant. After 24 hours, you can see that in the one that has camptothecin, you can see that the cells have migrated to the upper and lower quadrants, meaning that early and late apoptotic activity occurred. But as you can see, with none of our samples this happened, neither with the water root extra 1 or 2, or with none of the fractions, being the cyclohexane fraction and the water-soluble fraction. But this was a very nice way for us to be introduced to a new technique that we didn't know. After we knew that our samples and extract, as a matter of fact, did not inhibit the growth or didn't have a toxic effect, we performed a wound healing assay. And as you can see here in our control, we made a wound in a confluent monolayer of cells, and after 6 hours, we were able to see that the control actually moved faster than one of our samples, which was the water-soluble fraction. When you see the water-soluble fraction after 6 hours, you can see that it actually migrated less than our control. And you can see these results in this graph. As you can see, none of the other extracts or fractions did anything in the migration except the water-soluble fraction. Moving on, we perform an aggregation assay using the HS Sullen. As Natalia explained, there is a big difference between the parental and the invasive cell. In the parental, you can see a nice bundle of cells together, while in the invasive, you see them scattered throughout. After we added our extracts and fractions to this, we were able to see that some aggregation began to occur. But as you can see, the one that stood out the most was once again the water-soluble fraction, because you were able to see a nice compound of cells getting back together again. We also wanted to see if this will happen with the MCF7A6. But for this one, we did not have the invasive form from the lab, so we decided to add a compound that will make them invasive. And when we did this, we were able to see around the same results, although every extract and fraction did something in the cells. The one that stood out the most was the water-soluble fraction, when we see a really nice compact of cells together. To conclude, after working with the different fractions, we were able to say that the water-soluble fraction is the one that has the biggest results in all the cell lines when it comes to migration and also to aggregation. Some future work for this will be further fractionating the water-soluble fraction, perform some anti-cancer testing, and also try to determine the specific compounds, maybe compounds, that are causing the stimulation of the aggregation and the inhibition of migration. I would like to use this time to thank Dr. Vance Lambert, Dr. Stila, Melissa, that was always there for us, all my lab partners, New Mexico Tech for giving us the opportunity to go to their house, and also St. Thomas University. Thank you.
Any questions?
On your apoptosis, I don't know if you mentioned it, but what method did you guys use to test for that? Was it flow cytometry?
For which one?
For apoptosis?
Apoptosis, yes. We use flow cytometry.
Okay.
BMX in. Okay. Any more questions? Thank you.